Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a major development that has sparked intense discussion, strong reactions, and serious global concern. The event, being described by experts as a strategic earthquake, has reshaped not only the physical landscape, but also the geopolitical conversations happening behind closed doors. In this video, we're going to break down exactly what happened, why the destruction of the land bridge is so significant, and how experts, analysts, and observers are interpreting the long-term consequences. As always, the goal is to make this clear, concise, and easy to follow, even though the topic is incredibly complex. So let's get started and unpack this together. The destruction of the land bridge didn't just erase a piece of terrain, it altered the strategic balance in a way few events have in recent years. Many analysts are calling it a strategic earthquake because it created a powerful ripple effect that goes far beyond the immediate region. This wasn't just an incident of physical demolition. It was an event with political, military, economic, and humanitarian repercussions, all unfolding simultaneously. Experts say that when an area so critical to movement, supply, and control is suddenly disrupted, it shakes the foundation of every side involved. That's why this moment has become a focal point for discussions among governments, military advisors, and global organizations. One of the first perspectives experts bring up is the geopolitical importance of a land bridge itself. A land bridge isn't just a stretch of land, it's a vital connector that supports movement, transport, communication, and logistics. When it's intact, it allows for a steady flow of goods, people, and strategic assets. When it's destroyed, the entire equation changes. That's why the term strategic earthquake makes sense, because the destruction didn't just break the land. It broke assumptions, plans, and long-standing strategies. Analysts have noted that such an event forces every stakeholder in the region to recalculate their next move. Another key point experts emphasize is the symbolic weight of this destruction. Symbolism in geopolitics often matters as much as the physical reality. If a land bridge has been considered a stronghold, a lifeline, or a barrier, its sudden collapse sends a message. Whether intentional or accidental, the destruction signals a turning point. Some analysts argue that this moment marks the beginning of a broader shift, while others believe it's a sign of escalating tension. The symbolic impact alone has prompted leaders to call emergency meetings, draft new strategies, and engage in urgent diplomatic conversations. Beyond symbolism, the destruction has massive logistical implications. Supply routes that once depended on the land bridge now face uncertainty. Transportation systems that relied on it are suddenly disrupted. Military analysts point out that even a short-term disruption can throw off entire operations. When the route disappears, everything from the movement of personnel to the distribution of essential supplies becomes far more complicated. In many regions, logistics determine momentum, and momentum determines outcomes. That's why this event is being treated so seriously by experts who watch conflict and strategy closely. Economic experts are also weighing in and pointing out the financial fallout. Even if the land bridge wasn't used primarily for civilian trade, any structural destruction in a sensitive region affects markets, trade routes, and economic forecasts. Companies reroute shipments, insurance costs rise, and governments begin allocating emergency funds. Investors pay attention to instability, and this event has certainly created a wave of market caution. Analysts explain that economic stability depends heavily on infrastructure reliability, and when a key piece of infrastructure disappears, it reverberates through financial systems. There is also a human dimension that experts refuse to overlook. The destruction of a land bridge often affects nearby communities. Even if civilians don't live directly on the route, they may rely on the roads, services, or utilities that run through or beside it. Humanitarian analysts express concern about displacement, shortages, and reduced access to critical resources. If the land bridge supported the delivery of food, water, or medical supplies, then its absence becomes more than a strategic challenge. It becomes a humanitarian risk. This intersection between military and human consequences is part of why the term strategic earthquake is resonating so strongly. Political analysts are calling the event a trigger for a new phase of regional maneuvering. Governments often respond to sudden infrastructural loss by strengthening alliances, revising policies, or making public statements that signal new intentions. Some countries may view the destruction as an opportunity, while others see it as a threat. The shift in political posture is already being analyzed by experts who track international relations. They note that every major power involved will be recalibrating its stance in the coming days and weeks, which means increased diplomatic activity and possibly new negotiations. Another factor experts highlight is the technological dimension of the destruction. Modern conflict and modern infrastructure go hand in hand. If advanced weaponry or precision tactics were involved, it raises questions about escalation. If it was the result of environmental forces or structural weakness, then it raises questions about preparedness and vulnerability. Analysts are examining satellite images, surveillance data, and engineering reports to understand the cause and to predict what might happen next. This level of analysis underscores how seriously experts are treating the event. One expert noted that the destruction of a strategic land bridge is comparable to the removal of a hinge from a door. Everything may still stand for the moment, but the balance is broken, and the entire structure becomes unstable. This is why so many observers are watching closely to see how various sides respond. Will they attempt to rebuild the bridge? Will they shift strategies entirely? Will they interpret the event as a challenge or a warning? The ambiguity adds tension to an already volatile environment. Some analysts believe the destruction signals the beginning of a larger realignment. They argue that strategic corridors have been the focus of international competition for years, and this event accelerates existing tensions. Others take a more cautious stance, suggesting that while the destruction is significant, it does not automatically lead to escalation. Instead, they see it as a moment for leaders to reassess and possibly de-escalate. The range of expert opinion reflects the complexity of the situation. At the same time, military experts caution that instability in regions with sensitive infrastructure often leads to increased conflict. When one side loses a strategic advantage, they may attempt to compensate elsewhere. This compensation can take the form of new operations, stronger alliances, or aggressive posturing. The destruction of the land bridge could serve as a catalyst for such moves. Experts are watching closely to see whether this moment leads to rapid changes or controlled adjustments. From a strategic perspective, the land bridge didn't just support movement. It provided predictability. Predictability is essential in any strategic environment. When you know the routes, the distances, and the conditions, you can plan with confidence. But when a major route is suddenly gone, unpredictability takes over. Predictability is replaced by uncertainty, and uncertainty forces rapid decision-making. Experts say this is one of the most dangerous aspects of the event. When decisions must be made quickly, the risk of miscalculation increases significantly. Some observers argue that the destruction demonstrates the fragility of modern conflict zones. Even infrastructure that appears robust can vanish in a matter of moments. This fragility highlights the need for stronger engineering, better protection systems, and alternative routes. But building resilient infrastructure in regions of high tension is a challenge in itself. Engineers, planners, and policymakers are now discussing long-term solutions, but these solutions require time, resources, and stability. Three things that may not be available immediately. Environmental experts also raise questions about the long-term impact on the surrounding area. The destruction of land can affect ecosystems, water flow, soil stability, and wildlife movement. While not the primary focus of political discussions, these consequences still matter. Over time, environmental shifts can influence agriculture, weather patterns, and even population movement. Experts say that any evaluation of the event must consider these long-term effects in addition to the immediate strategic concerns. As the dust settles, experts agree on one thing. The destruction of the land bridge has changed the situation profoundly. Whether that change leads to escalation or cooperation remains to be seen. But the term strategic earthquake captures the magnitude of the shift. Just as an earthquake reshapes landscapes, this event has reshaped strategies. It has introduced uncertainty into every calculation, from military logistics to diplomatic planning. It has forced governments, analysts, and observers to reconsider assumptions that once seemed solid. In the days ahead, the global community will be watching closely. Leaders will issue statements, organizations will conduct assessments, and analysts will publish new interpretations. Each new development will add another layer to the understanding of what this moment truly means. But for now, the central message from experts is clear. The destruction of the land bridge marks a turning point. It demands attention, analysis, and careful consideration from anyone interested in regional stability and international affairs. And that brings us to the end of this in-depth breakdown. Thank you all for joining me today and taking the time to explore this major event. If you found this explanation helpful, make sure to stay tuned for future updates. There's a lot more unfolding, and as always, we'll be here to make sense of it together.